everybody, welcome to the channel. I am glad you could make it because in today's episode, I'm going to show you how to cook like a Mexican as we make a dish that I have literally been eating my entire life, Mexican Barbacoa. In Mexico, barbacoa is a style of slow cooking, very tough cuts of meat in, herbs and spices. Now there's lots of different meats that you can use, but a very traditional cut in Mexico is called the cachete, also known as the beef cheek. It is an absolutely incredible cut full of collagen and connective tissue that breaks down. And the end result is just an incredible sensory, beefy experience. It's absolutely amazing. Barbacoa can be used in many different plates. We typically love them in tacos, but you could put them on tostadas, you could put them in enchilada, on burritos, on nachos. You can fill tamales with them if you like a tamal de barbacoa. You could put it in soups, on potatoes, on top of vegetables, but I could go on and on. Let me show you how to make it. The first thing we need to do is get our hands on some beef cheek. Now, where I live, this is a highly undervalued cut. I actually have to go to the slaughterhouse to get it. This particular cut never makes it to the grocery store or the butcher shop. It's usually discarded, or when it's sold ultra cheap. And this is what it looks like straight from the slaughterhouse. So it needs to be cleaned up quite a bit. This is an absolutely brilliant cut of meat, and thankfully for me, I can get it ultra cheap because the locals do not use it in their cuisine. And so what we're going to do here first is clean it up. And so if you get your hands on an untrimmed beef cheek, this is more than likely what it's going to look like. And basically what we need to do is remove that top section. That top section is fatty, full of glands, and not really desirable for barbacoa, although you can use it in stocks and whatnot. So once you remove that top section, there's actually a piece of silver skin underneath it. I'm kind of removing them at the same time, and we're just going to go ahead and trim that off. That silver skin doesn't break down during the long cooks, and it stays chewy, and it's just not very pleasant for a barbacoa. So all of that's going to come off. And this is what your beef cheek should look like, at least the top side, once you're done removing that fat and the silver skin. Now, if I flip it over, the slaughterhouse already cleaned up the backside for me, but you're going to notice these rings of white right there. Those actually break down during the cook and turn into this beautiful, sticky, delicious mouthfeel. You're going to absolutely love it. So just remove the silver skin, top side, bottom side, and leave those, white rings that look like they're in between the muscle. But that's what our cleaned beef cheek should look like. Let's go ahead and add our first layer of flavor. This is totally optional. You don't have to do this, but it is going to add a nice dimension to our barbacoa. And all I'm going to do is heat up some oil on a blazing hot cast iron skillet, a touch of salt on each one, and then we're going to sear them for 3 to 4 minutes on each side to develop a beautiful brown crust. Once we're done, we're going to take some heated beef stock. You want to make sure the beef stock is hot and not cold, otherwise you could damage your cast iron skillet. And we're going to deglaze our skillet real quick. We want to get all those delicious bits that have stuck to the bottom of that skillet, and we're now going to take that and just go ahead and pour it in with our meat. Not a big deal. I probably used a total of maybe 1.5 cups of liquid. Let's go ahead and put that to the side while we get the spices ready. We're going to start with a little cumin. We're going to add some coriander seed, and then we're going to add some peppercorn. I'm going to give those a quick toast. This is going to help release their aroma, release their oils, and this is what it looks like once we're done. Absolutely beautiful. Smells incredible. And then we're going to toss that into our spice grinder. Now, mortar and pestle, classic way to grind up the spices, but any way you do it is fine. I'm going to give that a little grind, and this looks perfect. You could do it coarse, you could do it fine. It's totally up to you. Next up, chili flakes for a little heat, and then we're going to add some bay leaves, and that looks great. You cannot forget the Mexican oregano, although technically all of this stuff is optional. All right, let's add some chilies. First up is the chili ancho. Beautiful flavor, fruity, a little smoky. We've got the guajillo chili, and then of course the chipotle chili. We're going to add all of these to this cook. It's going to be incredible. All we want to do to prepare that is remove the stem and remove the seeds. That is it. You don't have to do anything else special. So once you get the stem and the seeds removed, you are done. And I just want to say one thing about Mexican cooking. We cook with what we have on hand. That's the brilliance of Mexican cooking. Now, granted, all of these ingredients are so readily available at any Mexican market. These are usually found in most Mexican recipes, but if you don't have this, you do not need to add this to your recipe. You could just do onion, garlic, salt, pepper, and it'll be absolutely amazing. So, but we're going to add all of this because it is going to be incredible. Let's set that to the side and look at our veggies. We're going to start with onion. I don't want to do anything too weird with onions. I'm just going to cut it in half and then do 3 chops. 1, 2, 3. And that's it. We're just going to do rough chop here on the onion once more. And I ended up using 2 onions for this 5-pound batch and roughly 2 bulbs of garlic that have been thoroughly smashed. I love a garlic-forward barbacoa because it's amazing, but this is one of those ingredients that is to taste. So add more, add less. It's up to you. Our final ingredient is the cilantro. And as you can see here, this does not look like cilantro. That's because I'm using a cousin to the cilantro called the culantro, or if you're in the Caribbean, this is also known as shadow bini. This tastes very similar to cilantro, and it's more readily available where I live. If you can get your hands on cilantro, then of course that's the more traditional herb to use in this recipe. But either one will bring the same flavor. Now, if you are one of those unlucky souls that are genetically predisposed to hate cilantro and you feel like your mouth is being washed out with soap, then you might want to omit this ingredient. All right, so there we go. I'm just giving that a nice little chop, and let's go ahead and put everything in our slow cooker. Now, let me just say that you don't need a slow cooker to make barbacoa. Originally, this was just cooked on a pot on a stove, low heat all day long, or sometimes, and more often than not, it was just bought already cooked from the local butcher. But a slow cooker is an amazing tool in this particular situation, so if you have one, use it. Let's go ahead and add all of our ingredients. We've got onions, garlic, cilantro. We've got our chili peppers. Notice I'm creating a little bed right there at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and add my spices right on top of all of that. And then the star of our show, the cachete, otherwise known as the beef cheek. Now, this particular slow cooker holds 5 pounds perfectly, but when we do 50 pounds of barbacoa, I'm usually cooking that in a much larger pot on our stovetop. Normally takes between 8 to 12 hours. All right, so let's go ahead and load that down. I'm going to pour any of that stock that we use to deglaze our skillet in there. That's going in first. And then we're going to fill this up with more beef stock. You're going to fill up your cooking vessel, whether it's a crock pot or a pot, to where the liquid is just at the top of the beef. This ensures that everything cooks nice and even. So let's go ahead and get a cover on that. And let me show you what I like to do as far as settings go. You can put this on high, 4 to 6 hours. I like to cook it on low. A lower cook, in my opinion, breaks down that meat a little bit slower, and I find that it is usually a little bit softer. So I'm going to set this to about an 8-hour low and check it. All we're doing is cooking this until the meat is literally fall apart tender. Now, I do want to taste it. Check it for seasoning. And depending on how salty your beef stock is, you may or may not want to add any salt. I am going to add just a pinch of salt right here at this point, but always remember that you can salt the finished product if it needs a little bit of salt when it's finished. All right, let's cover that. And many hours later, this is what your cachete is going to look like. And let me just say that your kitchen should smell a lot like my abuelita's house, which is incredible. Your neighbors are going to be knocking on your door. Let's see if this is fall apart tender. I'm just going to stick a fork in it, give it a little twist, and this looks beautiful. Look at that. Absolutely amazing. You know I'm going to snag me a little bite right quick. Oh, that's good. Look at this. That's exactly what we're looking for. Fall apart tender. If you grab it with the tongs, it should literally fall off the tongs. That's how tender you want it. All right. So we're going to go ahead and just remove the meat from, let's get that pepper back in there. We don't want to leave that behind. And now we need to shred it. And I'm just going to grab those same tongs and a fork and just start giving it a shred. And look how easy that shreds. I mean, this is so tender at this point. You don't have to worry about bones. You don't have to worry about fat. You don't have to worry about any of that weird gooey stuff that is sometimes associated with meat. 100% of what we're doing right here is edible. Matter of fact, you can fix yourself up a quick taco and enjoy it just like it is. This is what your shredded beef cheek should look like. But we're not done yet. We're going to do one more flavor enhancing trick. I am going to remove the bay leaf from our stock. Everything else I'm going to keep in there. So we've got our peppers and our spices and our onions. All of that is going to stay in there. So just remember, the only thing that I'm removing is the bay leaf. And I'm going to take all of that stock and put it into a blender. We are going to turn this into an incredible collagen-rich gravy, so to speak, cooking liquid, if you will. Let's just go ahead and put that on the blender and give it a go. Doesn't this just look incredible? Our barbacoa is ready. It's shredded. It's tender. I am going to give it a quick taste for salt to see if we need to add any salt to the meat itself. But because it was cooking in that beautiful, well-seasoned liquid, we don't need to add anything. That is perfect. And this is our cooking liquid, our stock. I am going to give this a little taste also. Now remember, don't toss this stock. You can add this to a plethora of other dishes. You can add it to your picadilla, or you can add it to rice for a really interesting spin on the Spanish rice. No worries there. All right, so it's getting late. I'm not going to make these tacos tonight. I'm going to put this in the refrigerator, and tomorrow we're going to finish this process up. So it's now the next day, and let me introduce you to the helpers. These are some fairly common ingredients that you can add to your taco. Now remember, you can make this very simple or complex. This is the cilantro, or in my case, the culantro, same flavor. We also have the onion or the cebolla. We've got our lime, all right? If you only add those three, it'll be absolutely amazing. We have some jalapeno, little spice, some tomate, a little tomato, and then, of course, if you want a nice texture change, you want a nice crunchy bite, this is some purple cabbage, also known as the repollo morado. But you can also add avocado or aguacate, your salsa, your hot sauce, your crema, your cheese. It really doesn't matter. This is your taco, so make it as delicious as you want to make it. Let me show you how we're going to heat up our already cooked barbacoa. I'm going to put this on a skillet with a little bit of oil. And on a medium heat, we are going to heat this up. And this freezes great. It reheats beautifully. Amazing. Now check out this stock. Look, overnight, it basically gelatinized because of how much collagen was in it. And I'm going to add roughly about a cup. Now, if you find that the stock is a little salty, you can add a half a cup of stock and a half a cup of water, and that would be totally fine. And what we're doing right here is we're, in essence, adding a gravy to our barbacoa. We're adding those beautiful flavors from the stock and a really rich form because of all that collagen. And so you're going to get a beautiful mouthfeel. You're going to get an intense explosion of flavor. It's going to be mind-blowing. So let's go ahead and finish heating this up, and then we'll prepare a tasty taco. All right, guys, at long last, our barbacoa is finished. Very easy meat to cook. It did take a day to get to the right tenderness, but we didn't have to do a whole lot to it. Placed it in a slow cooker, low heat, 8 to 12 hours later, you're done. So if you're going to learn how to cook like a Mexican, you got to know how to eat like a Mexican, and it starts with the doble taco. That is 2 beautiful corn tortillas. This is going to keep your taco intact. We do have a delicious, moist filling, and we don't want that taco to come apart while we're eating. Besides, corn tortillas are delicious. I would eat 2 by themselves. All right, so now that we have our barbacoa down, we're going to come back and add a little onion. There we go. Next up is the cilantro or culantro. And remember, you can add any of these ingredients or none of these ingredients. The barbacoa is really the only essential ingredient in the barbacoa taco. Let's add some jalapeno and some tomatoes. And then we're going to finish it off with some repollo morado or purple cabbage. And of course, you know it,
a little lime juice. You know you got to have that lime juice.
This adds a wonderful, vibrant freshness to this taco. You don't want to leave that out. And there we go. Ooh, nice.
And we are good to go. Our Mexican barbacoa, our beef cheek taco, or the taco de cachete. This is one seriously good looking taco. Let's just dive right in. This is crazy. This reminds me when I was like 8 or 9 years old, Monterrey, Mexico, 4 a.m. on a Sunday, walking to the local carniceria with my abuelito, with my grandfather. We were going to the butcher shop to pick up some fresh cachete. Now, they had been steaming it all night in a pressure steamer. And by the time we would show up, He'd get a couple kilos of it. He'd get some eyeballs. He'd get some tongue. And I remember thinking how wild this was. And on our way back, at this point, it's now 4:30, 4:45, we'd stop at another neighbor who was making fresh tortillas. And for breakfast, every Sunday, we would have barbacoa with my grandparents in Mexico. And it tasted exactly like this. Going in for another bite. This is so delicious. The beef cheek is tender, it's juicy, it's flavorful, and with the addition of that collagen-rich stock, that gravy that we added, it's added an entirely different dimension. It's rich, it almost has this kind of sticky quality to it. It certainly elevates the flavor. That combination of raw onion with cilantro and a little bit of lime juice is just unbeatable. And that crispy crunch that cabbage adds, if you've never tried it, I would invite you to try it at least once. I absolutely love it. A little bit of spice from the jalapeno, all of this together, in my opinion, just makes one heck of a taco. And I completely intend on eating an entire plate full of these here in a second. Now, one piece of advice, if you make this, and I certainly hope you do, because it is so easy and so good. And just remember that you can make it as complex or as simple as you want. A little beef stock, salt, onion, pepper, garlic, and you are good to go. Or you can add chilies and coriander and cumin like we did today. And no matter how you prepare it, it's going to be delicious because it's a great cut of meat. My advice, though, is to not substitute the meat. You'll find a lot of recipes online where they use a substitution beef, and it's not going to be quite the same. This particular cut is rich in collagen. As you saw, it gelatinizes the stock after it gets cooled down, and it offers just a completely incredible experience. It's not fatty. It is super tender. It retains its juices. It is just absolutely incredible. So I'm not really sure how hard beef cheek is to come by where you live. I had to go to the slaughterhouse, but maybe if you live by a Mexican market, or if you're in really good with a butcher that gets the head of the cow, maybe he'll cut that out for you. Try to get the beef cheek for this particular dish. Trust me, you won't regret it. Thanks a lot for watching this video, guys. I hope you get a chance to make it. If you have any questions on how to make authentic Mexican barbacoa, leave them in the comment section below. And if you like this video and you want to watch more videos on how to cook like a Mexicano, be sure to give me a thumbs up and drop me a comment in the comment section below. If you're new here, don't forget to sub and click that notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Adios.